The reason for the emotion is because we make it all like relationship is like life and death. And you think about it, it's because our deepest fears are there. Who else can make you feel completely insignificant and unloved more than the person whose love you desire most? There is none. And when you feel worthless and unloved, that is psychological death. In fact, when people consider suicide, it's usually because they believe that their life is worthless, that they have no love. And so they think that maybe dying would be less painful than living. So it is an area that has so much charge. And if there's one thing that we want to do here is we want to take some of that charge away. Meaning, everyone's a great communicator when they're in a great state. Is it true? But when people are pissed, when people are frustrated, when people are fearful, whenever you go into that survival brain of yours, no one's a great communicator. I'm not a great communicator in that place. And so the biggest thing we want to do is break the charge, and we're going to give you tons of tools to do that because that's what's messing up your relationship. You can solve anything. You can come up with agreements on everything if you don't have such a charge. And the charges are really not coming from your partner. The charges are coming from your history. They're coming from your background, they're coming from your conditioning, they're coming from your culture, it's coming from your models of the world, including the models you don't like. So maybe we start with a mindset that if you were facing death, who would you want to spend time with? What would you do? What would you communicate to the person that is your beloved? What would you give up? What story would you just let go of if you guys are both facing death? And I say that because in our last year and a half, in the last 2 weeks even, I've had 4 different people that have been diagnosed with cancer or died or have had near-death experiences. And then we were just the other day, it's been wild how much it's been around us. We were flying, where are we flying to?
We were actually flying to Los Angeles.
Oh, flying to LA, that's right, before we came here. And we were at high altitude and we lost an engine on the plane. And the stewardess came, Monty Pearl was asleep, Mary was asleep, and then the plane dropped on one side. I'm used to, I know a plane, I'm a pilot, when you get really rough, but it was very different. One side of the plane went down. And my gut went down, and all of a sudden the stewardess came back and said, "You gotta all buckle up, we've lost an engine."
Yeah, it was really incredible. We were on the plane, and earlier when we actually were sitting having dinner, I don't know why, like Tony mentioned, a very dear friend of ours, John Turbot. We love you, John, who's a part of this team. He was most recently diagnosed with cancer, and we actually didn't know at this point that he actually had cancer, but he was getting tested and so forth, and we were waiting for the results. And so I was flipping through, and I found this poem on death. And we were having dinner, and I was really moved by it. He was less moved by it. And so there's 3 of us. Mary was there, Tone was there.
Yes, Mary and I both said, "Do not send that to John." The beginning was beautiful. The rest of it was really, really bleak. But she'll discover tonight this is a fire sign, and she finds joy in everything. Death, yes.
I was deeply moved, so I was sharing this. So this was about an hour before this happened. We ate our dinner, we went to sleep, and I felt the plane drop, but I just thought it was turbulence at that point. And the airline stewardess came and she knocked on, she tapped on me and said, "Listen, you guys need to come and buckle up." She said, "We've lost an engine and we need to have an emergency landing at the first airport." And so it was just, and I said to her, I said, "Is this real? Like, is this really real?" And she says, "It's very real." And so, we all got up and we sat in our seats and we buckled up. And in that moment, a text came through, and our dear beloved friend John, we just found out he was diagnosed with leukemia. And so the death of ourself, or the possibility of the death of ourself in that moment, plus just reading his own experience, we sat there, we looked at each other, we held hands, we prayed. We shared just how deeply we loved each other, and it just struck me how incredibly peaceful it was. To actually choose in that moment. We all chose to stay connected. We all chose to stay in love in that moment. And earlier that day, I wasn't thinking of death besides that poem in that moment, but it made it acutely real. And I thought, oh my gosh, if this is my last moment of life, I don't want to miss it. being in the future, I might die, being in panic. It was just so savoring the moment of that connection and being present to life, being present to each other. It was gorgeous. And we all thanked each other for this beautiful, beautiful life and this beautiful, beautiful family. And we sat there and we let go and we watched out the window as the plane was descending. And as the plane was descending, and we're watching, and I'm looking out in the window, and there was all these ambulances, like maybe 5 ambulances and fire trucks. And I'm like, what on God's green earth are they all doing down there? Because it just like, I don't even know, but it just made it. And I was like, holy smokes, in that moment, realizing that this FBO, this airport was open so that we could land the plane, and all these, medics and so forth were rushing there. And it was just such a surreal, gorgeous moment of life. And it just struck me that death and life are so close, and it was just really no different than living if you let go of the future projection of the fear of what may come. And it was such an intimate, amazing moment, and by the grace of God, our plane landed so beautifully, and here we are. But it was such an incredible moment of just an acute realization that this life is so precious, and we never know. And to love at that level, to choose love each and every day, to choose love with your beloved. It's like one thing to say, I love you, and it's another thing to actually offer that currency, to actually offer that presence, to offer that joy, to offer that connection to each other, to your beloved, rather than the expectation what they should be giving us. And ask yourself, if you were to die today, how would you love? How would you give to everyone in your life, not even just your beloved, your parents, your children, to actually show up and expose your heart and give all of you in that moment? I think it's what we're really destined and called to do, and I had the privilege to live that truth with this man and my family and Mayor the other day. It was so incredibly gorgeous, and it hasn't left me. I felt it changed me as a human being, and I was humbled, and we were ripped wide open to the gift of life. And don't let or allow life to come with a death sentence, and at that moment start to live. And we've had the privilege of the humbling experience of that with our own bodies in this last couple of years of our lives, and it wakes you up. So we're here to wake you up together, that we can all wake up together to just how beautiful it really is, and to love so completely and totally and leave nothing on the table. I think it's our destiny to love at that level. So thank you. I love you.
Here is the secret to ending your suffering. Trade your expectations for appreciation, and your whole life will change in that moment. The minute you appreciate something, your suffering is gone. It's just your expectations that are stressing you out. And sometimes not meeting your expectations will cause you to come up with a new way to grow, or a new way to do something that's better than what you did before. What would your life be like if you made this decision today for real? Screw everything else. We've got a million other things we're going to do to improve your life. What if you really made a real decision? You said, I am not suffering anymore. Life is too short to suffer. I'm going to live in a beautiful state. I'm going to have a good time every day, no matter what. And I'm going to catch myself. I know I'll get off target for a minute, but I'll catch it and get right back in a beautiful state. The minute you stop complaining about your kids, but you look at the things you love in them, the minute you stop complaining about your partners and you think about what's a better way to get through them, this is a chance for me to grow and expand. The minute you appreciate anything, your suffering is over. Because loss, less, and never is always a lie. You don't lose something, you gain a new option. You aren't in a place where you can never do it again except when you believe that shit. Because whatever you believe, you're gonna live. A new set of appreciations and suffering is over. Remember, there's an old phrase, it says, don't sweat the small stuff. And the second rule is, it's all small stuff, right? What would life be like if all the things you get frustrated by, or stressed about, or worried about, if you just wouldn't indulge in them anymore? If you started to, you'd catch it within 30 seconds or less and snap out of it, and find yourself focusing on something you could appreciate, or something you'd love, or something you're grateful for, or someone you love. If you were to train your mind and heart and body to live in a beautiful state every day, no matter what, how much more magnificent would your life be? How much more joy would fill your body? Because when you're grateful, suffering disappears, doesn't it? You can't be angry and grateful simultaneously. They don't go together. Every problem is temporary. Only your soul is permanent.